Welcome to our Committee of the Whole on tonight, which is May 26th. It's a little after 6 due to a changeover of committees. We do have a quorum present. There are some new members here tonight that have not attended a Committee of the Whole, so I'm going to just go through what this is. This is going to go like any other committee that you are a member of, except that most of the council is here. We make no decisions. We will come up with a consensus, hopefully by the end of the meeting, to decide where we will take this project next to which committee. We are going to ask you that you log in, because we have blue lights do not work, and that's what we're going to do for our request to speak. We will start out with public comment, then we have a presentation. There are two separate items on the council agenda. I don't expect people to go in order. You can ask any questions of either one of those subjects. We just had to make it as, just to make the comments to tell the public as succinctly as possible of what we were going to speak tonight. So we will start with Sam Wessel. When you come up, you have 3 minutes. She times. And with that, please your name and address. Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Sam Wessel. I work for North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, 210 McClellan Street, whom the city, in partnership with a lot of communities in the area, has hired to conduct a housing assessment. I'm not speaking in favor or against anything on the agenda tonight, but more just to give background on the fact sheet that I wrote that is included, just so people are aware of what's going on. So basically, 8 different communities in the county are teaming up to see what kind of housing do we need at what price points. We all know there's a need, but getting more numbers to that. And basically, regionally, we're growing, not as fast as some other regions, but we're getting older like much of the state. People are living longer and staying in their houses longer. So the future of housing might look different than what we are used to seeing. Surprisingly, we do have a good supply of middle-class housing in this area, but if you ask the average person looking for a house, you might not get that impression. And a lot of that's because there's a shortage on the low end and a shortage on the high end, so everyone's competing for the same housing inventory. Even if you take income out of the equation, with the house prices going up, a lot of people have equity and can move up to higher-end housing, and there's a shortage. From what I've had preliminary discussions with realtors and developers in the 350 to 500, but ultimately housing at all price points and all types helps us all, because if you can get somebody into a product that they like better and can't find, then that frees up existing housing, and it's kind of this giant domino effect. Our area has relatively few condos, townhomes, studio apartments. Those are just starting to become more frequent up here, but there's still fewer of them than kind of our peer communities. Single family is getting harder to build just because of the infrastructure costs and construction costs. What else? Oh, twin homes, duplexes. And I bring these up because a lot of people who will become empty nesters soon find these products desirable. Anyways, the greatest demand is expected through 2025 and ultimately through 2030, and then it'll start to level off in the 2030s, according to state projections. The lower the rent price, the more applications a place tends to have. So that shows you that there's the demand on the low end of the market too, low to mid end. And when you approve a project, it can take up to 2 years, which is kind of the challenge here with timing and getting people where they need. So that's kind of a big summary. Zoning affects what can be built. Wausau's got a great new zoning ordinance. Timeliness and expectations and efficiency with working with the different communities also affects the price that is ultimately passed on in rents or purchase price. But now it's time for me to promote what's next for public participation. Surveys are open online. You can email me if you want a hyperlink to them. Otherwise, city staff has my contact info, or it's on NCWRPC's website. And we have an open house right here, August 17th at 5 o'clock p.m. where you can take the survey or tell us what's on your mind and what your ideas are or what your frustrations are with the housing market. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tyler Vogt.
Hi, my name is Tyler Vogt. I was born right here in Wausau, graduated high school, left for college, and I'm one of the ones that came back. I've built several small businesses from the ground up, and I am now building a family. I have 2 daughters, a wife of 15 years, and a home, and I'm starting some more projects on the northwest side of Wausau where I think there's more need. I can firmly state that I have a vested interest in Wausau. My goal in life, other than being a good father and a husband, is to make this town better while I'm here and have some fun along the way. I have a curiosity in government and understanding its role. I've come to the recent conclusion that TIFs seem to be filled with smoke and mirrors for pretty much anyone that isn't a developer or a financing official. I believe this development is a good idea and there's a demand for the housing. The developer has many successful projects to draw experience from, and we need to increase population density to increase cash flow to the city as opposed to continuing to raise prices on the people that are already here. I also think added residents downtown will invigorate the entire district for a multitude of reasons. I spent the day on Facebook today explaining the concept of reverse TIF funding, and it was a blast. I spoke with hundreds of people, and they're overwhelmingly supportive of what they see is a need for all housing in these areas, all sectors of housing. And we can do more than one thing at once, which is great news too. Nearly all the opposition on this project came from misunderstanding reverse TIF funding. So I tried to explain it to them in this one paragraph. Reverse TIF funding costs the city nothing up front, and after the improvements on the land are built, the city only captures a percentage of the property taxes assessed, and the rest stays with the developer until the agreed upon amount is reached. That was about as succinct as I could get it, and I believe it's 100% right, but if I'm wrong, somebody tell me. I would like to point out that while the city is only capturing that smaller amount of taxes, it's still significantly more than we're getting from this land sitting there now. This is a $40 million investment that will add up to about the same amount of taxes in our town as 200 homes priced at $200,000, which is the average price of a home around here. I just learned that too. While this TIF is active, it will generate what 50 homes currently do, depending on these final numbers that I guess haven't been decided yet. And that's just the first part. If this and the second part gets built, this project will bring a revenue of roughly 400 average family homes to our community in 2 blocks when the TIF is over. That's 2 blocks to snowplow, 2 blocks to build, and 2 blocks to maintain instead of 40, which we don't have the room for. Plus, there's a massive uptick in the amount of discretionary spending right in the heart of our city. And we have 4 more blocks of opportunities beyond this. I urge you to move forward with this project. I want to thank everyone for listening to this. I want to thank the foundations for stepping up and keeping Wausau pointed in a forward direction, and T-Wall for betting $40 million on us. And I have one final thought. Moving forward only costs us something if something larger, asking less, comes along. Doing nothing costs us all starting now. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Lang.
Hello, Susan Lang, 453 Grand Avenue. Thank you for allowing this. Give a little bit of background. I grew up in Mosinee, but I've been living in the Wausau area for the last 35 years. I'm currently general manager of Emmerich Properties, and we're one of the largest landlords for housing, rental housing in the area. Our target audience is rentals that can be for attainable and affordable housing for hourly workers, and that's our audience and direction. And so I'm in the housing business. Prior to that, for the last 30 years, I've been involved, and I did 3 different factory startups, 2 in the Wausau Industrial Park and 1 in Weston, manufacturing companies and bringing in and employing hundreds of people. And I was also the president of McDevco a number of years. So I've been involved in economic development and a huge cheerleader of Wausau for the last 35 years, and I still am. My comments I wanted to make was just acknowledging how difficult this is to do. Economic development of this scale is nonlinear. You start, and it doesn't always go in a straight line. It never does. And the decisions that have been made so far, I applaud, from the council as well as what the foundations and the WAS group has done. We've done step A as a community. They bought the mall, we got control of it, and raised it, and now we need to move on to step B. I'm with Tyler in saying that we can't stop here. It's like we launched the boat into the ocean with A, and now we need to do B and C and D and E and F and keep on going. Stopping, If your boat's in the ocean, it fills up with water and people jump out and you end up with a mess. So we need to keep on going. Having done some economic development in the past, one thing I would just say is you need to know who to trust. And I think we have the privilege here in town is that we've got not only your staff in economic development, but also the Godorsey team who's leading this, as well as our foundations that are helping to fund. We're all doing this for Wausau. And we've got several phases. I just encourage you to start with phase 1, and then we'll get that one done. We'll learn, and then we'll go on to the next phase. And that we don't hesitate, but have the courage to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Craig?
Well, good evening. I live at 3246 North 8th Street. I brought my son Gideon with me tonight because, after all, that's why I'm in all this. And I came to Wausau in the mid-90s to manage the mall that was built by the Jacobs Group back in the early 80s, when the city decided to raise 8 city blocks with a vision for the future and create a site, ready that site for development with the Jacobs Group. And that was a very controversial decision. And it was tough for the city council at that time to decide what to do. But they set aside the noise of the day, the negativity of the day, for the vision for tomorrow, and voted for a better future. And I hope you do that with this project. Because there's been many times before the city, we've had controversial decisions. 19 years ago this month, I came before the city and asked for some help to build a hotel. $4 million on a $14 million project. The vote was 7-5. A lot of controversy. People said it would never work. We have the Jefferson Street Inn, a boutique hotel in downtown Wausau that's been greatly successful. But it took that vision and the courage by the council to do it, right? We wanted to build the 400 block. It took 12 years of controversy to finally decide that we needed more than just grass and asphalt walks. And it's the pride of our community is our 400 block. We wanted to clear the pedestrian mall out after 22 years. That was controversial. We wanted to put in a street and parking, but the city council had the courage to do it. And I hope today that you set aside all the noise and all the chatter and all the negativity and look at the facts. We've been transparent. We've incorporated all the plans from the meetings that took place on the North Riverfront, the South Riverfront, the Towers neighborhood. They all came to one conclusion. We need more housing. That's what this project is. Some people say they don't like T-Wall. They don't want to work with T-Wall. But remind you that you guys picked T-Wall for the riverfront when you sent out an RFP, right? T-Wall is a great developer. He's got 1,800 residential units. And he's willing to invest $40 million in our city in a reverse TIF that takes the liability in his hands more than the city. And I hope you set aside all the negativity and do the right thing. I hope you vote for this project. Thank you.
I just want to say one quick thing. I hope with all of your help we can make downtown Wausau have a bigger and brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ellen Schill?
Thank you. My name is Mary Ellen Schill. I am a shareholder, vice president, member of the board of directors of the law firm of Reuter Ware, which is headquartered here in Wausau. We currently are in the Dudley Tower at 500 North 1st Street. I'll take you back to 1920, and the law firm of Reuter and Schmidt was at 502 3rd Street, then moved to 311 Jefferson Street, back to 502 3rd Street, moved to 500 3rd Street, the building which at that point in time was owned by Ann Margaret and Glenn Campbell, among others, and then moved to the Dudley Tower. As you know, and as you can imagine, we've never strayed from our downtown roots, and it's very important to us. Downtown is important to us. We've had opportunities to move outside of downtown with new office buildings, but we always decided to stay downtown. It's true here in Wausau. It's also true with our other locations in Green Bay, Eau Claire, and now Wisconsin Rapids. We are a downtown law firm. Each year we hire 1 to 3 new associates, and it's important because we compete with Chicago and the Twin Cities and Milwaukee and Madison for that young talent. And a vibrant downtown is very important to that. That's what young professionals need and what they want. They like to be able to walk to work. They like to be able to go out to lunch, go shopping over the noon hour, and that's why the downtown is very important to us. In case you haven't noticed, I'm here on behalf of the Ruder Ware in support of the Block 4 project. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of why we're doing that. I mentioned that each year we recruit 1 to 2 new associates, paralegals, and staff to support that. We have 62 employees in downtown Wausau right now, so a rather significant size employer in the downtown. Why are we hiring those 1 to 2 new associates? Well, because each year now, some of our more senior attorneys are retiring. Some of them want to stay downtown. Some of them continue to want to live downtown or want to move downtown. They're empty nesters, and so projects such as this would be very, very nice for them to have. But the next Lane Ware, the next Byron Bronston, the next John Mickler, we want to attract those folks to Wausau and to the downtown. And I think to do that, we need to have the amenities that Lane and John and Byron saw, and I can list a whole bunch of other Ruder Ware attorneys and other staff members. They saw something good in downtown, and that's why we stay here. And we're hoping that the council finds it valuable as well to move forward with this proposal. Thank you.
Blake Opal-Wahaski.
Blake Opal-Wahaski, 316 Scott Street. I'm the Executive Director of the Wausau River District. Referring to my statement here, on behalf of the Wausau River District, your Main Street program for Wausau, we would like to express our support for the T-Wall project proposed for the Wausau Opportunity Redevelopment Zone. Our organization has identified that we currently have between 3% of our Wausau's population living within a walkable distance to our downtown. We know that a city is only as strong as its core, and what happens in our downtown has a ripple effect throughout our community. Jane Jacobs, an author and one of the Main Street activists, once said, "You can't rely on bringing people downtown, you have to put them here." So I can't think of a more relevant quote there. We need to have more bodies within the downtown area, especially with this post-pandemic economy when we've seen a huge change. I think one of the things that has kept downtown Wausau so strong over the years is such a strong daytime economy from having so many office workers downtown. And because of remote working, we've seen a huge influx in the last 3 years, resulting in less and fewer office workers. Went off the script there. Our Residential Development Committee with our organization has the goal of increasing our residential density in the downtown corridor to help achieve an all-hours economy in our downtown where businesses can generate enough revenue to stay open later and Sundays and Mondays. The benefits of more people living downtown are numerous, including increased vibrancy, increased perceived safety, increased market demand for new businesses, and more people contributing to the local economy. Adding housing to our downtown can be difficult since there is an inherent challenge of being landlocked. However, we need to take full advantage of this time in our downtown's history when there's ample space for development on the former mall site. Moments like these don't come along often, so I urge you to support this project and all future residential projects happening in the downtown in the future to keep this positive momentum and create opportunities for our future. Thank you.
Thank you. William Harris. I thought I saw him come in. Okay, we'll put that aside. Ryan Gallagher.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Ryan Gallagher. I'm at 220 Washington Street. I am the owner of a business called Rocket Industrial. We employ many people downtown. My wife and I also own the Milk Merchant. It's a cheese store. I'm on the foundation as the president of UWSP at Wausau campus. I am the vice president of the United Way board, and I'm on the community foundation. I'm also an investor in Banter Apartments across from Festival Foods. So I believe in Wausau. I'm a fan of Wausau. I was born and raised here. I'm a promoter of Wausau, and I'm a recruiter to people who are thinking about moving to a place like Wausau. And I love research. Our team called several of the largest employers in Wausau and their HR departments and just asked them very simply how many jobs they have open. And just in the top employers in the area, there were thousands of jobs that are open. Everybody knows that. We could have an unemployment rate in Wausau that's below zero and still have hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs open. We could have an unemployment rate below zero and still have thousands of jobs open in our largest employers. We can't, it's impossible to grow a community or a downtown without places for people to live. And we don't have enough. And we're not doing it fast enough. There are thousands of places, positions open. Foot Locker, I talked to somebody from Foot Locker that recently moved to town, and Foot Locker, and we all know what happened with Foot Locker, but Foot Locker is still bringing people to town, and she said, when Foot Locker recruited us to move to town, they told me I should try to find a roommate because I wouldn't be able to find an apartment for myself. So I've been up here speaking before, and I said that at the time when the mall was torn down, I said a vote for this project is a vote for the love of Wausau. And I believe that is still true. And I love the statement that said, let's not stop. Please, let's not stop. Let's keep going. The return on investment of this is great. So I'm in full support. Thank you.
Paul Leprey?
Good evening, Paul Leprey, 500 First Street in the Dudley Tower. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the City Council in the Wausau regarding the Wausau Mall development. I address you tonight as the incoming chairman of the Wausau Region Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Board of Directors of the Greater Wausau Prosperity Partnership and a citizen of the Wausau community since 1988. For the last 7.5 years, I have served as Vice President of Business Development for Myron Construction here in Wausau. In that role, I have traveled extensively throughout the state. I have spent time in 68 of the 72 counties in Wisconsin. In those travels, I have not seen a single opportunity to reinvigorate the heart of a downtown. Nowhere have I found a city, village, or township that has the opportunity that we have right here in Wausau. An opportunity to shape our community for the generations to come. An opportunity to create a vibrant place that will attract the next generation of families and workforce this community so desperately needs. You don't need to look any further than Green Bay, Wisconsin to see the impact revitalization means to a community. The iconic Lambeau Field, for decades, has been a destination for millions of football fans. But it was a destination for 9 to 11 days a year. The Packers had a vision to make Lambeau Field a 12-month destination, and with the help of the village of Ashwaubenon and Brown County, the Titletown District came to life. A destination filled with housing and mixed-use facilities, a welcoming place for everyone that has quickly become the heartbeat of the Green Bay area with events nearly every day of the week. Since the development of the Titletown District, Green Bay and the suburb of Hobart have become 2 of the top 10 fastest growing cities in the state of Wisconsin. That is the impactful opportunity we have right here in Wausau. I know what you're saying, Lambeau Field, it is a destination. We have a destination here, it's called Granite Peak. We have a world-class kayak course in the middle of our city. It's time. Now is the time to turn our destination into a permanent home for generations to come. One of my favorite quotes is from Helen Keller, who said, "It's easy to be blind, but it must be hard to be able to see without vision." I ask this body, our leaders, to have the vision and the courage to see this project through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Owen Jones.
Hi, you guys hear me? My name's Owen Jones. I grew up in the Wausau area. I'm a real estate broker as well, have been for a decade. I have 10 agents that work under me. I'm also one of the largest by value landowners in the county. I own several hundred apartments, several thousand mini storage units, and several dozen commercial properties. And I can tell you, also as the CEO and owner of Tommy Docks, that one of our greatest challenges, of course, is attracting talent. So I'm speaking in favor of the project simply because I do understand how TIDs work. I actually used one to build the Tommy Docks facility. And although it's time-consuming and strenuous, I think it's a process that's when done right, is incredibly important. I can tell you with confidence that I wouldn't have built, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I built a new headquarters off 35,000 square feet of office and mixed-use warehouse for our headquarters. And that was only possible because we were able to take advantage of the TID there in the Village of Weston. So I speak from some experience with this. I did have Plan B and Plan C in place should that not get approved. And so obviously water under the bridge, it got approved and it worked out. But I can't speak highly enough that this is a crucial moment in the trajectory of our city, both in terms of growth with people and growth with the businesses within it, because they go hand in hand. It's been a challenge to attract skilled laborers as well as unskilled, and I think everybody's aware of that. I think that what you need to understand when you're voting for a project like this is it's the first shoe that's dropping in a line of events that are going to take place following it. So when, as an investor myself that's developed a lot of property here, it's very encouraging to see a city rally behind investment. And I can tell you that there's a lot of investors that are starting to buy property and build property in Wausau from outside areas. The more we can show that we are doubling down and betting on ourselves, which is what this vote is, it's a bet on Wausau and nothing else, the more we're going to see big money come into this town and build up businesses, attract more talent, and offer amenities that we need to compete with A and B markets that, we offer some of it, but we need to fully encapsulate that to really get these people to want to move here as a value offering, because what we have here for the cost of living is something no one else can compete with if we do this right. That's it.
Thank you. William Harris.
Good evening, everyone. My name is William Harris. I'm at 316 1/2 North 3rd Street, Apartment C, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. Mayor, Madam Chair, and alderpersons, thank you for your time today. I'm here to speak about the mall redevelopment. Now, I know there has been much debate on this topic and about the process and a lot of push and pull, as there very well should be on a huge project like this. Alderpersons should ask questions. The city should do its due diligence, negotiate the best deal possible, and address any concerns such as environmental or tax implications or otherwise. However, I think the goal should be to move forward. The success of our city hinges on our ability to meet the needs of our community, to continue to improve the quality of life for the residents here in Wausau, while also building a bright future that supports growth and opportunity. We want to attract and retain a next-generation 21st century workforce economy that will continue to ensure Wausau's economic success and future prosperity. Now, supporting this project should not mean we are in any way abandoning or losing focus on other projects that are necessary to meet the housing needs of our poor and vulnerable populations, which we should. However, to be a desired location, a vibrant and growing city, Wausau needs to create housing for all levels of income. Wausau residents also need access to more shopping, more retail choices, and that directly meets an unmet current need of all our residents. Creating opportunities for successful small and large business development will benefit all residents in the growth to the local economy and in the creation of more jobs. At this point, the mall has been demolished, so not moving forward with the project by creating unnecessary delays would result in a waste in taxpayer dollars, business losses to currently locally owned businesses and property values, and our downtown would lose the potential to add up to 500 residential units. And we would all lose out on seeing the addition of new residents and businesses that would add value to our community. To be clear, though, I'm not saying that means to leave common sense at the door, especially when it comes to the health and safety of the community. I am counting on your leadership to ensure that the deal is not just done, but that it is done right. I would also ask the City Council that you all be thoughtful in the negotiations and decisions regarding this redevelopment, are transparent, and keep the public informed and allow opportunity for the community to have a voice. In doing so, the city will create confidence and trust from the community as it proceeds with the mall redevelopment, which I truly believe in the end will help secure and build a more prosperous future for this generation and the next as we move forward together. So I do support the approval of the mall development project as a resident of Wausau and community leader. We should be cautious and steady. I respectfully request that the City Council support it with their votes, and thank you again for your time and the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Rich Tatzke?
Good evening, Council President McElhaney and Wausau City Council members, Rich Tatzke, 222-464 Bluebell Lane. Thank you for your time this evening and for the opportunity to share the perspective of the Greenheck Group on the importance of revitalization efforts underway in our community. I share my perspective in the capacity as Chief Operating Officer in the Office of the CEO for the Greenheck Group, as well as a community volunteer on GWPP. On behalf of these organizations, I offer my strong and convicted support for the mixed-use downtown revitalization plan, which is currently under consideration. Why am I so convicted? Because this plan is vitally important to our community's success because of how intertwined we are in each other's success. Our owners invest in this community. Greenheck's one of the largest privately held companies in the state of Wisconsin. Unlike others, we're not located in Madison or Milwaukee. We live in our community. One out of every 7 students in the Wausau School District has a parent that works for our organization. We believe in our community. Together, our shareholders and employees were the 4th largest donor to United Way in the state outside of Milwaukee and Madison. We support our community. We showcase Wausau to 2,500 visitors across the globe who visit our community 50 weeks out of the year. And we work in our community. Our company currently employs 5,000 people nationwide, and we anticipate doubling in size in the next 6 years, only if we can find people. At the heart of our organization is a longstanding partnership with our community for the good of our community, which is why we believe so strongly in the role revitalization plays for all of us. We are located across the country in large cities like Sacramento, California, small cities like Brownsville, Tennessee. What I can assure you is that every location is facing the same challenges of attracting and retaining people to their communities to provide a vibrant and growing place to call home. Make no mistake about it, there is no silver bullet to this problem. If there was, I'm pretty sure someone would have done it already. Instead, I strongly believe that communities with the strongest partnership between locally owned private investment, community-minded not-for-profits, and courageous government leadership will be the ones that win at the end of the day. History would show that we have done that in the past to make us the unique community we are today, and I believe we are presented with the opportunity to do it again. 40 years ago, people sitting in your seats and standing in my spot courageously decided to change our history by opening a downtown mall. With courage and conviction to continue the current revitalization plan, 40 years from now, our community will remain prosperous and growing because of our collective commitment to making Wausau a place people want to call home. Author Nelson Henderson said, "The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit." I believe the revitalization efforts underway are one of those trees. And that we have been handed a baton by generations now gone to plant a tree for generations to come. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you. Sean Wright.
Good evening, Sean Wright. I'm Executive Director of the Grand Theater at 401 4th Street. A vibrant downtown, as you know, is essential to our community. It's also essential to the continued success of the Grand Theater. Patrons from all across our state, literally every county of our state, come to Wausau to see shows that they could see in their own market. Because there are so many great businesses, attractions, organizations in our downtown, many of them represented here tonight. Those people come back time and again and generate an enormous economic impact for Wausau and for our region. But as we've heard from others, there are storm clouds on the horizon. We don't have enough housing for downtown, for workers downtown, especially in an era of remote work, not to mention, as the challenges have been talked about, recruiting workers here. I know we've had challenges as we've recruited new employees for them to find proper housing. This project provides an opportunity to solve that and so much more. It provides an opportunity to keep our downtown vibrant. And I think that the opportunity that we might potentially lose is greater than we could ever imagine today standing here. You know, as many have said, public-private partnerships are challenging. They're difficult. They're at times controversial. Sometimes they're hard to bring to the finish line. But let me give you an example. You know, Paul spoke about Green Bay and the Titletown District. I recently was in Cleveland, Ohio on business and took in Progressive Field and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse area, the flats along the Cuyahoga River, the Playhouse Square, which is now the largest theater complex outside of New York City, if you can believe it. Every one of those areas is vibrant with housing and attractions and retail, hotels and entertainment. And every one of them has a public-private partnership. I mean, the Cuyahoga River was literally on fire only a couple of decades ago, and now it is a place that has a vibrant development. These were all public-private partnerships. Let's keep our community moving forward. Just as the leaders of Cleveland did with those, and just as been talked about tonight, the leaders here in this community, many of you and others have done, starting with the mall and with other projects over the last 40 years. Let's not let this opportunity pass us by. Let's continue to make Wausau a wonderful place to live, to work, and for people to visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Brahasset.
Good evening. Randy Brahasset, 915 North 6th Street, and owner of Evolutions. Thank you for allowing everybody to talk today. You know, in 1998, we bought the building that we're in on 6th Street, and there's a lot of people downtown that looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" It was in shambles. There was bricks falling off. But we had a dream, and we said, you know what? We can do this. And what's the worst that's going to happen? Nothing. That didn't happen. We kept moving forward, and we've been through, in the last 25 years, some pretty major challenges. 2008, road construction, road construction, road construction. The mall, you know, one of the biggest business things that we see are tourists to our community and the words that they share with us. And the average time spent in our store is 40 minutes. So when people come into the store, we have time to talk with them, and we have time to say, hey, what do you think of Wausau? And they love Wausau. They love the kayak course. They love the theater. They love the businesses downtown. Tyler has the same vested interest I have. You know, I own 6 properties downtown. If it stays a concrete slab, I don't know what'll happen. It scares me. Because the people that are down there right now, there's some people struggling pretty hard, and we need some people. We need people down there. We need people with pockets that want to spend, and we have people that want to open stores, but they're afraid to because they don't know what the outcome's going to be. And we don't always know what the outcome's going to be, and that is the scary part. But The biggest thing that I think we strived with when we opened, our biggest assets, our community. And we're super involved. We've donated over $75,000 to local charities so far this year. So we are vested in the people that we work with and work for. So none of this by any of us is taken lightly because we want Wausau to grow. And the only way we're going to do it is together. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Karnowski.
Good evening, Ryan Karnowski, 717 Ridge Road in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I'm also the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Stevens Point and the Executive Director for the Redevelopment Authority for the city. I grew up in Wausau, spent all of my years proper City of Wausau on the city's northeast side. I left after attending UW Marathon County to attend UW Stevens Point, where I had received an undergraduate degree in public administration and public policy. I now have a master's in public administration through the University of Illinois. About a decade ago, City of Stevens Point did exactly what the City of Wausau is doing. We tore down our downtown mall. It was never a success, and we're okay admitting that. It was important to us to reconnect the downtown to the north side neighborhood. If anyone's familiar with the City of Stevens Point, it literally created a physical barrier between our downtown, the heart of our community, and the city's north side neighborhood. So we punched 3rd Street through. We also put a few other of our streets through to make that connection. Let me just state, too, it's really nice to be on this side of the podium for the record. So one of the things that we've done is we looked for a catalyst project. We actually partnered with Merge Urban Development in 2018, and they are currently constructing 211 units of mixed-use building in our downtown on the former Lullaby Furniture site, which was a heavily contaminated site. The first building is already open. It's about 80 apartments. 3 months in, when they opened in February of 2020, they were at 60% occupancy. Building number 2 just opened, very similar, 80 apartments. They're already on that same trajectory of occupancy. They're so confident what they're doing in downtown Stevens Point that they're starting building number 3 in a few weeks here, and building number 4 will come shortly thereafter. That property alone is about $30 million in new increment value to our TIF district number 10, which is our downtown number 2 TIF district. Those catalyst projects brought forth a number of other projects in our downtown. Berkshire Senior Housing is 88 additional housing units. It's affordable senior housing. They're at 100% occupancy. Well, that just opened about 2 years ago. The city's final remnant piece of our mall is the Shopko building. Thankfully, you folks didn't have a Shopko building in your downtown like we do, but that just sold, and we're looking at another 250 units of mixed-use apartments on that property. We're currently actively negotiating with TIF deal with the developer. So in the next few years, City of Stevens Point is going to be adding probably close to 500 units in our downtown area. Blake said it, he kind of took the thunder away from me. We talk about in urban planning and economic development, bringing people downtown, driving downtown and parking downtown and shopping downtown. The best way to alleviate that is putting people downtown. Putting people heads in beds, people who are going to spend their time, energy, and money in your downtown is super critical. Real quick, I know this is super unnerving, by the way.
Sorry.
Just speaking kind of the city government language, levy limits are killing us. They're suffocating our communities, and we, I think, all recognize that. But investing, getting these properties, getting new assessed value in your downtown, tax revenue per acre goes way up in your downtown. It's the heart of your community, and you're able to continue to provide services that otherwise would likely be cut. And you folks are going to have to make those decisions if you're not willing to invest in your downtown. Where are you going to cut the services to your community? And that's why new development is super critical. And as a former Wausau resident, I encourage you to push this project forward and trust your city staff. They don't bring projects to you unless they know they're going to work and that they're a good project. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to apologize in advance if I really screw this name up. It is not my intention at all, but Foose or something. What did you say? Oh.
Well, thank you for having me today. My name's Sebi Foose. I know in the emails I usually converse with some people, they always say Steve, and I always start off by name saying Steve without the T, so that's the easiest thing. I'll keep it really brief today. First of all, thanks for organizing this, so small business owners like us can come out and voice either pros or cons for these kind of things. I live at 307 and a half North 3rd Street. I'm probably one of the few people here today that actually was able to walk here today, which is, I don't know, kind of little, maybe we should put a little more deodorant part of the size. But I actually have a extensive background, in commercial finance and capital-sized real estate development projects. And it's a very tough business. I mean, what these guys are trying to put together is massive. But as everyone, well, at least a lot of people here, it's well needed. I am currently the owner of Modern Gents Barbershop and Men's Spa, opening next week in the 3rd Street Lifestyle Center. And you'd think, oh, it was just a barbershop, maybe 6 months to put it together or something like that. But it actually all started back with a meeting with Chris Schock. And he said, I know this guy, Mark Craig, that you should talk to because downtown needs something new. So Mark and I about, I don't know how long, 3 or 4 years ago? 4? See, I'm not lying. We looked at so many locations, many different business ideas, and we ended up coming up with this barbershop space. And the biggest thing that attracted me was like, well, I know aside from the need, is that my front window is the new mall redevelopment. I mean, what an incredible feeder for my business, and especially all the other downtown businesses. And these are going to be people with disposable income. I think that's the one thing that maybe someone hasn't hit on here that's so important, is we need people down here with disposable income that can go out and spend money on a whim, and they don't need to travel very far. Last thing I wanted to say is, I've put in almost $250,000 into this 1,500 square foot space to create not just a barbershop, but a destination, and I remember in my business plan when I turned it into Compass Properties, one of the quotes I had in there was that from former Mayor Tipple said that, in order for us to have a first-class downtown, we need first-class businesses. And it just hit me so hard. It's like, I have to do this. I have to make it happen. So, like I said, I think it's highly needed. Revitalize downtown, and you'll see a huge influx of new businesses like mine spending, capital investments to get it done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Contrail Rex.
Contrail Rex, 1403 Grand Ave. I just want to thank everybody for their time and for, as Sevi hit on, allowing us shop owners and just residents to have some say-so or be able to voice our concerns and opinions. I'm a Wausau native, been here pretty much since I was a young kid. I can remember the days, like I'm sure a lot of you can, when the lines from McDonald's were, all the way stretching to Sabaros, when you had to basically come to Diamond Dave's 30 minutes early just to get a seat in there, or even plan out when you're going to come see Santa Claus with your kids because it was just so busy, But unfortunately, those days are gone now. And, seeing the way that things are going, trying to retransplant those businesses and businesses that we wish we did have in the mall to the downtown area, I feel like not moving forward with this project would be, to give you a little bit of analogy, it would almost be like needing a heart transplant. No one wants to get stents. No one wants the big cut, but it is absolutely vital and necessary for life. We have to, think forward, have a business downtown. And one of the main reasons that I decided to establish my business downtown is because it's a clothing boutique. I got tired of driving to Madison, Green Bay, and Milwaukee to go buy those things. I got tired of putting other income, my income, in other cities' pockets. So to have that store here and to have us keep our own money, to keep that income in our own pockets is a no-brainer. So just imagine having other stores, other ideas, other income coming into our downtown area. I mean, to just sit here and do anything as they hit on, to have a big slab of concrete just sitting there, not only will people not come here, people are going to leave here. So we'll be sad, you'll be blamed. So thank you for your time.
Okay, I guess we're ready now for the next section. We are going to be doing the presentation. I don't know who's doing that.
Oh, he's going to sit back there. Okay, it's fine. Can you hear me okay? Thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and make a presentation to you. My name is Dave Ekman. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Wausau Chamber of Commerce. I also serve as the president of the Greater Wausau Prosperity Partnership, and I'm also representing as president of the Wausau Opportunity Zone, WAZ. So tonight, we're going to take a bit of a fragmented approach to this to take you really from the top of the funnel and work you down to where we're at today. So Winston Churchill once said, "We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us." This is true not only of buildings, but of parks, plazas, streets, and every part of the built environment in our towns and cities. People are drawn to quality places. This has always been true, but it matters now more than ever for two reasons. First, more people are working remotely. Their job is not tied to a single location than at any time in history, meaning that a growing share of the workforce can choose where to live irrespective of where their job is located. Second, the traditional model of economic development has been turned on its head in recent years. Rather than attracting companies and expecting workers to follow, successful communities develop a quality environment that attracts and retains talented people, which causes companies to take notice and expand into locations where they can access top talent. Companies today chase talent. Workforce housing is an opportunity to bring talent to the community. What are the ingredients of quality places? Attractive, vibrant places are multifaceted and provide a variety of land uses, amenities, and activities within a tightly knit environment. The traditional main street of small towns has been rediscovered in recent decades as an efficient way to pack in all the necessary ingredients of a thriving mixed-use district. Independent shops and restaurants, office space, housing, entertainment, and nightlife, all woven together with attractive sidewalks, streetscapes, and public spaces. Taking its cues from the resurgence of Main Street and revived downtowns, the real estate development industry has adopted mixed-use development as a preferred growth model, not only in downtowns, but across the transect from urban to suburban to rural environments. How are quality places developed? The proven formula typically combines thoughtful public investments in new and enhanced infrastructure and public spaces with private sector-driven real estate development. Placemaking. To develop quality places and community amenities to attract and retain talented people, to support innovative companies is imperative to our economic success. Creating the place to attract and retain people to work in our innovative companies is critical to our economic success. The mechanics of placemaking need to be flexible and imaginative. Public-private partnerships, P3s, you've heard them here tonight, where government and business share development costs, risks, and financial benefits are an important tool in placemaking. Every word that I just spoke was articulated in the Greater Wausau Region Economic Development Strategic Plan. Many of you have seen this document. It sits in front of me every day, not behind me, but in front of me. It's authored by a nationally recognized economic development planning professionals, TIP Strategies, and delivered to this community March of 2019. These words have never been truer than in a post-pandemic world. Today, and for generations to come, communities all over the United States, like Wausau, are competing to attract and retain next-generation talent. Building vibrant and thriving, revitalized downtowns is imperative to our economic success. Now, you've seen this before, and I'm going to talk to it a little bit. We're up at the front end of this. When we were there in 2019, we didn't have an economic development plan. We didn't have a vision. We went and found the data. The data drove the things that we're working on today, still are relevant today. So we talk about the plan. And goal number 3 is placemaking. And this is really relevant as to where Chuck's going to take this and then get it down to T-Wall. Strategic Initiative 3.2 under placemaking. Wausau Center redevelopment and urban vitality. Pursue long-term redevelopment options for the Wausau Center Mall site to create an urban mixed-use destination that re-energizes downtown Wausau and enhances the regional economy. Well, this plan was delivered to us in March of 2019. In August of 2019, our community was provided an opportunity with CBL announcing it was going to sell the Wausau Center Mall. Lo and behold, after this plan was developed, here the opportunity sits in front of this community to secure 7.5 acres downtown. Communities throughout the country would love to have this opportunity that we have in front of us today. Over the months, in collaboration, the Judd S. Alexander Foundation and Dwight and Linda Davis Foundation, in a public-private partnership with the City of Wausau, purchased the Wausau Center Mall. Wausau Opportunity Zone finalized the purchase of the Wausau Center Mall from CBL in February of 2020. Need to note this. It's really important to the context of this conversation and where we're at today. The Judd S. Alexander Foundation and Dwight and Linda Davis Foundation, like many of the foundations in Wausau, have contributed large sums of financial resources to the economic well-being of the city and the citizens of Wausau for decades. For decades. You cannot question, you should not question the intentions of the foundation's role in helping this community move forward. This project, supported by these philanthropic organizations, is a selfless commitment to the future of this city and future generations that call Wausau home. In March of 2020, of course, COVID-19 hit. The pandemic was upon us, but it did not stifle, but accelerated the planning process. Strategic Initiative 3.2.1. 3.2, let's get them all. 3.2.1, commission a master plan that explores a range of viable long-term options for developing the Wausau Center Mall site. And Chuck's going to talk about this a bit with WAS. Strategic Initiative 3.2.2, encourage new market rate housing development in downtown Wausau and adjacent urban neighborhoods. The downtown revitalization efforts over the past 2.5 years have been guided by a strategic process, a very thoughtful process, a very collaborative process. a community process, and in collaboration with the City of Wausau. And with that, I will now turn over the presentation to Chuck Adorsey, Managing Director of Wausau Opportunity Zone.
Thank you. Yeah, you're behind me. Okay, good. Well, anyway, good evening, everybody. I'm, as Dave mentioned, the Managing Director of Wausau Opportunity Zone. And truly, it's been a pleasure to kind of work through this project, both with you folks, the community, and when you have an evening like tonight and you see the support that our city gives to this project, it's really encouraging. For those of us who, like you, have kind of served on the front. Last time I was here with you, I left you this sheet, basically having some illustrations on it relative to the plan itself, and then on the back, some of the narrative as to what we've been doing. By looking at that, you can see that I think we've been pretty busy, if you would, over the last 27 months. And as David mentioned, this is a collaborative effort that we've been working on together. And now we're at a point where we can call this site pad ready. That's a pretty wonderful term to be able to use. And as David has mentioned, I would venture to say that there isn't another small city in America, and Paul mentioned this as well, in our state, but even in America, that has the opportunity that we have to develop not 7.5, but with the Pennies building, 9.5 acres of prime real estate in the center of our historic downtown. That is pretty awesome. I have also mentioned to you in the past that this is kind of a process that involves 3 factors. Again, Dave has touched on them, but the first factor is our community, our city, and the support that we see in terms of wanting to move this community forward, to wanting to develop our workforce, to wanting to make this a better place. And you folks who sit on the council and our staff, and our community investment. Secondly, these 2 foundations that have stepped up to really take ownership back of them all on a local basis. And thirdly, now what we see is our private sector, and our private sector stepping up and making investments and taking risk. And now what has been happening, in my opinion, is not by chance. It's been hard work, it takes leadership, and it takes commitment, if you would, to one another, and it takes commitment to our city, of our city, to our city. And our city has been doing its part. It's helped with the purchase of the mall. It's provided money for demolition. It's involved in street design, street construction. It's helped with the environmental testing. And we've gone through 2 successful amendments, if you would, to the purchase and the development agreement. And the Wausau Opportunity folks have also been doing their part. They have given millions to the project with their only intention of advancing a downtown revitalization. They are continuing to fund the project's losses. They will be paying back the city $660,000 in a new note that has been put in place. They will be deeding over 40% of this property, 130,000 square feet, to our city for the construction of some state-of-the-art new streets. And they have delivered an environmental closure on the site from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. And now we have brought forth a developer in T-Wall Enterprises who is looking to invest $44 million in Block 4. This is a firm that has done successful projects in other communities around the state. As you know, Green Bay, Madison, Watertown, Neenah, Elk Grove, Racine, Monona, and their home base in downtown Middleton. They have even grown the project from 103 apartment units to 154 apartment units. Their design enhances and embraces our historic downtown. Their standards of excellence are high, and they seem to have a great desire in terms of working in downtown redevelopment. Over the past 15 months, despite a pandemic and now even higher inflation and construction costs and interest rates, they have stood strong in terms of their commitment as well, spending heavily in plans and preparation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nick Patterson and Terrence Wall to speak specifically about Block 4. Thank you.
Hi, Nick Patterson, T-Wall Enterprises, and thank you for the opportunity to share this development with you. We're just going to go over a couple slides here. We can start with the next slide. So this development is called the Foundry on 3rd. The Foundry on 3rd is a 5-story building with first floor commercial space and retail and apartments above. The commercial space and retail will be located along Washington Street and 3rd Street. And the goal here was to really activate the streets and reinforce the pedestrian flow to the downtown and to the 400 block. And then a portion of our retail space is also forward-facing the public open space and also the future public market, which will create a really cool activity center once it's all done for the downtown. Next slide, please. So this development will contain 154 units, a wide range of units from studios all the way up to 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. And so these units will provide housing for all lifestyles, different income levels, different price points for young professionals, empty nesters, or simply families that need more room. And then we will also have lower level underground parking under the building. And then here are just a few green initiatives that we will be doing in this development. We always construct all of our buildings to focus on energy standards and often exceed those standards. We'll have electric vehicle charging stations in the underground parking. Here's a good example here of a photo in Middleton Center of our EV charging stations. We use smart thermostats, which are Wi-Fi enabled. They can hook up to your phone. So if you're remotely, you can hook up to your smart thermostat and shut off temperature to reduce energy consumption. And then we use WaterSense water fixtures, all Energy Star appliances, and LED fixtures as well. And then here's a good rendering to your right here of standing on the corner of Washington and 3rd Street. We took a really good look at the architecture of 3rd Street, and we wanted to tie in and integrate into the downtown and be an extension of 3rd Street. So we've designed the building with more brick, with large windows. We have steel cable balconies, larger storefront facades to again, really activate the street and be an extension of that 3rd Street. And then I have just a list to date of some of the accomplishments in the development. We've completed our soil borings. Environmental testing has been conducted on site. A preliminary plat has been approved. A final plat has been drafted as well. And then we have our design, our architectural plans, and the general development plan will be in front of council in the coming weeks. Next slide, please. And then here are some real-life photos of past developments we've done. This will give you a good sense of some of the amenities that we'll be providing in this development. You see here in the courtyard on the left, this is Peloton in Madison. We'll have different seating areas, resident gathering spaces, fire pits, grilling areas, which will also be included in this development as well. And then to your left is one of our typical fitness centers that will also be included in this development. Next slide, please. The photo on your left here is Hidden Creek in Madison. This is the club room. This development will also have a club room with similar features, ample gathering space for residents. And to your left there, you see there's a game room with billiards, various games. This development will also provide that as well. And then here's a unit in Peloton in Madison. This gives you a really good sense as well as some of the typical features, fixtures that we include in our units. We have luxury vinyl plank flooring, all granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, open floor concept plan. Next slide, please. And then here's a good shot of the interior courtyard. Have a lot of our gathering spaces centralized to the development to create a nice sense of community. Again, the fire pits, grilling areas, and just have good gathering spaces for the residents. And then Go back. Continue on that slide.
Oh.
And then what's next for the development? We have the final plat drafted. That'll go through the appropriate bodies for approval. And we're working diligently with the city on a draft to present to council for approval. And we're also working on our specific plan that will also go through approvals through public bodies. And then next, we are working to secure a loan and for an anticipated construction early next year.
That's it.
And then just to recap, what our goal is here, what we're really trying to achieve is we're trying to meet the housing needs, get heads in beds, have the amount of heads in beds needed to support the additional commercial space on the first floor, and also to create opportunity, create a destination for the city of Wausau, and that's really what this development's going to achieve. So I have a few references up here of various municipalities that we've worked in. I encourage you to reach out to one of them, see what we've done for their community. Thank you. And now I believe Terrence Wall is on virtual. I'll pass it on to him.
Oops. Hello. Can you hear me all right? Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I apologize for not being able to be in person. But I'm very excited about the project. It's great to hear all of the community contributions tonight. I was really impressed with everyone's talk and their personal stories. But we're very desirous to be part of the Wausau community. We've been working on this project through 2021, COVID and the pandemic, continue to make financial commitments to the project. And I also want to highlight that we're so committed that I even made an offer on some land to build a cabin up there, but I got beat out by someone else. But we're very, very interested in making this a success for Wausau. We've done this in other communities. It's been enormously successful in transforming the downtown and improving the downtown, helping lease up vacant space in other buildings, helping to provide customer traffic to the other stores in the downtown. And it really is going to be something that will really transform and be a stable anchor for the downtown for the next 100 years. This will also be a high quality development, not only in terms of the construction, but in addition, the amenities, as Nick pointed out, we have a high quality list of amenities. This is, I want to assure you, it's the highest quality development that you will find. I think you can see that in the architecture. That architecture is very expensive to provide. There's a lot of detailing in it, so we're very excited about how I think it fits in well with the downtown. So with that, I just want to make it quick and short and say we're very committed, very excited. And what I'd like to do now is to introduce to you Van Nutt. And Van is the former executive director of the Middleton Chamber of Commerce, where we transformed the downtown there. And Van's just going to speak a few minutes as to that. and give you a flavor for what happened there and how well it went. I'm happy to, again, just re-urge you to move forward on this project. Let's make it happen, and hopefully we'll all be back here in a year or two, and we'll be shopping in the stores and living in the units and looking at the building. So with that, Van, I'll turn it over to you.
Terrence, thank you. It's nice to see nice to see the group gathered there tonight. I'm Van Nutt. I was executive director of the Middleton Chamber of Commerce from 2003 until 2019. Through that period of time, I got to live through a number of different TIF programs, and have to say TIF 3 in Middleton was probably one of the more successful TIFs in the state of Wisconsin over time. Terrence T-Well's project was part of that, and part of the amazing value increase that happened in the community. We worked kind of as a liaison between the developer and the city. My role, much like Dave Ekman's there, perhaps to a lesser degree given the size of the Wausau Chamber. And I was actually booted out of my office to make room for this project. Terrence, I don't know if you remember, but we were in a two-story building, one of 5 downtown Middleton, that were in perfectly good shape. They were 20-some years old, maybe 25 years old, but they didn't have elevators. They were not ADA compliant. They didn't need to be. They were grandfathered. But the city did what you're doing and have been doing now. They looked at it and said, is there a better and higher use for this? Can we drive our local economy more by doing something besides having these two-story wood frame structures? Terrence came in and shed some light on some of the potential, and those alderpersons in the city and planning commission said, you know what, this is what we need to do. And I left my office and moved a couple of blocks down the street, but I was able to watch the construction. I sat on every city meeting. Actually did that for 16 years. This is my regular Tuesday night, so thanks for allowing me into your world. The property was valued at $4 million. I think now it's close to $64 million on the city's tax roll. So that's a 10x. That's that's not going to happen every time. But the vision of T-Well Enterprises was to create kind of an extension of what was happening downtown. They even used brick that had been on old buildings in downtown Middleton, dated back to the early 1900s. So they created an amazing product. Residential was one of the driving forces, as it appears to be here. And yes, it will attract employees. It will attract talent to the community. But it will also allow some who are looking to downsize an opportunity to move back into the downtown area, freeing up housing for families and others. So there's a number of different levels to these projects. And you're in a beautiful place right now with what you have. The downtown Middleton project, anywhere from 4 to 5 stories of residential above first floor commercial. One of the things that I loved with the development was that they didn't, as numerous developers would do, say, okay, who are we going to put in here? Well, let's see. We'll do Five Guys Burgers. We'll do a mattress factory. We'll do boom, 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 boom. And I'm not knocking these businesses. T-Well Enterprises sought out local businesses. And if they're able to do it there, they will, because it adds so much credence to the development. And as everyone said earlier, and you've got an amazing group of people in that room tonight. I'm just jealous. I would have liked some of those voices and some of the project we attacked. But Terrence and his team did everything they said they were going to do. They went over and above and ended up with a really beautiful project. They also helped fund a little park across the street, which will become a small city center. And I see some of that incorporated in their plans here as well. So I'm supportive of downtown development. And that goes back to the late 70s in western Iowa, where the city decided to put up connecting external hallways between buildings before they allowed the mall to go in. They had the foresight to try to do something. You've done that here as well, and I wish you the best as you move forward. It's a beautiful project, and I can't say enough about the TWE team. They're strong, and they will deliver what they say they're going to deliver. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready for questions. Hit your lights. Hang on. Yep, oh, Lisa. Okay. Alder Rasmussen?
Thank you. Not so much questions, but I guess some comments. And so first, I want to thank everybody that came out tonight to talk with us. I think it's important for us to understand not only the perspective, but the needs of our community. And, you know, in this case, our local business community, our river district, is directly adjacent to the property in question. And we know that as an economy, as we are trying to roar back from the pandemic, it's really difficult to roar back if there aren't people around. And so, you know, I think, I guess I'll start with a little bit of a personal story. This summer, I had the opportunity to travel to a lot of areas in Wisconsin. And one of the things I do when I travel to other areas, and I kind of geek out on these things, is, you know, I want to see what other cities look like. What does their infrastructure look like? What do their amenities look like? What do their buildings look like? What do their firehouses look like? What are the amenities? What kind of housing do they have? And what do their parks look like? And so as I was traveling this summer, I had the ability to do this type of observation in Sheboygan, in Appleton, in Madison, in Green Bay, Eau Claire, and Minneapolis. And so between, you know, prepping for the college process with my son and traveling with American Legion Baseball, I had an awful lot of time in between games to check out other people's stuff. And so what I saw this summer, though, was a lot of these communities are developing exactly the stuff we see here, like for the Block 4, Block 5 proposals, in terms of housing developments, projects, redevelopments of areas that needed attention. The stuff that's going up is similar to the stuff we see here, with varying levels of quality, but the designs are similar, the mindset is similar. You know, I think that we're on the right track. We see our peer communities, some of whom we compete with for talent and for businesses, and those communities are doing these things. And I don't think we can afford to be left behind. I don't think we can afford to sit still. In the SISM committee, we've already considered the street design for this area, and we've selected an open curbless environment that has lots of space for all users, for bikes and pedestrians and amenities and benches and sitting and gathering. We want this to be an active space, and we want it to be successful. We want it to have a variety of housing options. You know, and I think really, I mean, the committee of the whole, we know, doesn't make final decisions on anything. But I think the best thing we could do as a committee of the whole is make a recommendation that we request that our economic development and finance committees, the committees that do make these decisions, work deliberately to move this project forward. This entire project, you'll recall a couple years ago, the mayor spent her first summer with us as the mayor renegotiating the terms of the WAS agreement to the benefit of all taxpayers. And, you know, using reverse TID financing on some of these partnerships, that also mitigates taxpayer risk. That means the developer takes the risk. They build the stuff. And when it's up and it's done and they've delivered their end of the bargain and they start to pay tax on what they've built, that's when the incentives come. But they take all that risk first. We have overwhelmingly migrated to reverse TID arrangements with our developers for just that reason. When I started on the council in 2008, we gave all kinds of TID money up front, and we hoped that things turned out. And in most cases they did, but they weren't easy. But to mitigate the risk to our taxpayers, who we all answer to, reverse TID was a way better recipe for success. So, you know, I would like to see us all support this project, and I would like to see us request that our two committees that do the work, the heavy lifting, start doing the work. So, thank you.
Alder Watson?
I guess I would like to have Director Brodick maybe come up and since Econ Development has really been looking at this project, just do you have any other comments too?
Sure, thank you. And I wanted to echo Alder Rasmussen with thanking everyone who came out tonight and spending your evening, your summer evening here, speaking in support of a very, very important project. As you know, I just wanted to go through some points that I had laid out just to kind of fill in any gaps that I could think of. But first, I wanted to start with the premise of we have to remember that WAS owns this land. So this is not city-owned land. This is what they looked at several developers with a lot of different criteria, and they came up with T-Wall as the developer that they wanted to do this project. So they are working, basically, they have an agreement in place with T-Wall, and now we are kind of progressing on the normal path of things in terms of looking at a development agreement that was sent to us, and in the midst of negotiating that, and then we plan on bringing that to economic development and finance, like I said, kind of like any other development agreement that we would do with a privately held property. Another point I just want to drive further home and maybe make a little bit more or say a little bit more about is that we need housing. Everyone who stood up here at public comment, really, I mean, that was like the gist of what we heard. We are very fortunate to have the numbers. The housing study fact sheet was provided in your packet. I just read through the draft report today. It's clear it's still a draft, so it's not ready for public consumption yet, but it had some really interesting numbers that I wanted to share with you. That some of them were in that fact sheet. So one of them is that we need 10,000 residential units in this region. 10,000. This project gets at 154 of those, and that's a first phase. I think that we need to keep in mind that this does tackle some of those some of the housing units, and the housing units that we need, as Sam kind of mentioned at the very beginning of this of his point, is that we have a lot of competition in the middle. We have a need for low-end housing. We have affordable housing projects in the works. We are RFPing or planning to RFP more sites for that. And we need upper level housing. So we need stuff on the higher end as well. Because right now, higher end folks are competing for the same stuff that everybody else is. So we need to free up those markets and create the housing units that are needed. I believe the exact numbers were, let's see, we need to build 70% of the housing demand between now and 2040. And 46 of that needs to be built by 2030. It is 2022 and kind of getting towards the end of 2022 right now. So that means that we need, between 2020 and 2025, we need 2,077 units in this region. We don't have a lot of time to get that done with 2025 kind of right around the corner, and then we need an additional 3,230 by 2030. That's according to that draft report. So I think that having some numbers to that housing need hopefully helps kind of understand and really bring that home. We especially need those higher densities in mixed-use development for a greater variety of housing prices and choices. And I think it's important to note that we are landlocked as a community. We don't have a lot of space to grow out. We have to grow up. So we have to really focus on what those higher densities mean. That means multifamily residential for housing choices. We also are the only community in this region that really focuses on multifamily residential. There isn't, we're not seeing that development. That's not happening in Croninwetter, and it's not happening in Mosinee, especially to the extent that we're looking at doing that here. It's a regional economy, and I think we have to be cognizant that the regional economy means that people are moving between, they live in one community, they work in another, but they want those housing options in that entire region. I also wanted to just drive home the point about timing. I know we've been talking a little bit about that today. So we've already saw interest rates are supposed to rise, I believe, as of tomorrow. I think the Fed is raising interest rates. And then, of course, we have labor and supply shortages. Every developer I've talked to in the past few weeks says basically they think we're looking at a downturn in activity in 2023. So moving forward kind of keeps at least 154 units in the pipeline for 2023. So I think that this is also this project presents the right uses and aesthetics for the area. I'm very pleased with the time that T-Wall has taken to understand what 3rd Street looks like. I also think we have to understand in terms of timing that if we don't do this project, we have already seen a 30% decrease in office occupancy in the downtown core since the pandemic, and it's not coming back. Hybrid models are here to stay. The remote work that we've been talking about, I think a few people have spoken to that tonight. but this allows people to live and work downtown. I also, I don't know many of you know my background, but I worked for and ran 7 business improvement districts throughout the state of Wisconsin. There is actually nobody that the WEDC knows that has worked in more business improvement districts in the state. So I have I'm very honored to have that understanding of other communities and what we're looking at for downtown development. So I can tell you that that downtown development absolutely needs housing. As Blake mentioned, we have he said, I think it was 3 to 4% living within a walkable area of downtown. It's even fewer than that living in the downtown. I think it's about 2 or 3%. Healthy downtowns require 15% of the residential population living downtown. The state average is 11. We are severely missing the boat on this. And our downtown economy is basically built on the back of local entrepreneurs. These are friends and families of ours. I mean, I have a big passion for downtown, so I think it's coming through. So I know it makes me slightly biased toward downtown entrepreneurs, but I think that it's important to remember that these downtown entrepreneurs, these small business owners, are the character of our community and our region. So I would hate to see this tarmac in the middle of our downtown continue for another 4+ years if we don't move forward on this development. Not to say, I mean, I know that we're not taking action today. I know we have a lot of steps to go through. We are in the midst of negotiations. We have to take this through economic development. We have to take this through finance. We have to take this through council. Will Harris said it really well. There's a lot of common sense that needs to be exercised to make sure that this is not just a good development, but the right development. And I think that we have the city staff to be able to do that, and we've been working diligently to that end. It has been also mentioned a few times today that no other downtown, and Alder Rasmussen mentioned this as well, that no other downtown in the state, and maybe even a larger area, has the opportunity that we do with this development right now. This is a pretty amazing, almost once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, once in at least a generation. Like, look at the mall. It was 1983 when it opened. That's a generation ago. That's about when I was, just before when I was born. And so that's like, we're coming at a new opportunity for a new era. We're talking about 21st century talent economy. This is what this is. This is what this type of development really lends to. I think it's also worth mentioning, Dave Ekman from the Chamber mentioned their strategic plan, and I think it's also worth tying in. That strategic plan definitely has merit, and that is a private strategic plan. The city of Wausau also has a comprehensive plan that this body has adopted, and that was back in 2017. The downtown chapter outlines a goal that the city would continue to strengthen downtown as the heart of the city and the surrounding region, with objective 1 being supporting development and redevelopment downtown, and objective 2 being investing in downtown and encouraging high-density residential uses. So I think, again, going back to the housing need, and especially the density that is required for a healthy downtown is worth driving home. It's also worth saying again that this is an opportunity to grow our tax base. We have some of the numbers from the draft housing report were pretty interesting and kind of like I said, I read it today, so I'm still kind of mulling some of these things over in my head. But we have some of the lowest housing costs, lowest rental unit cost, and lowest house purchase price, according to, I think it was Redfin and Realtor.com, a few others, I think maybe one other source. But of this region that's being studied, we actually have the lowest housing costs in this area and the lowest median income. What I think that really says, and we have a lot of social services located in this area, we need to grow this tax base and really bring some disposable income into this area to make sure that we have the tax base to keep growing and to not cut services. So, and like I said, we are working. We know that low-income housing is also a priority. We are working on developing that as well. Actually, Finance just heard an ARPA request for affordable housing project, and we've presented. I think a couple others as well. So we are actively working on that. It's not to say one or the other is needed. It's to say both are needed. I have some other numbers from this housing study that I think are pretty interesting, but not entirely pertinent. But wanted to make those points about the importance of this development and moving forward at a pace that I think is appropriate. Of course, making sure that we have all the input from council and the appropriate committees. But that's all I wanted to say for now, but I'm, of course, any questions, happy to answer those.
Thanks. Alder Larson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. And Liz Brodick, I have just one question for you right off the top of my head.
Sure.
Has it been decided how much TIF money will be needed from the city as of yet?
It is not.
Okay, thank you. T-Wall didn't deliver in Wausau. He, as one of our alderpersons said, they kept moving the goalposts, and we couldn't come with an agreement for the riverfront. And then we were told that we couldn't talk about it because we may get sued. So we couldn't bring this back to our constituents. And lo and behold, T-Wall was going to sue us. And then all of a sudden, that kind of just went in the wind. I've done, my one question is, has anybody done a background check on this company? Because I have. And what I found is I found lawsuits all over the state. I have found that T-Wall didn't develop in Racine as was in our packet and was, and in fact, in an article by the Journal-Times, which used to be the Racine Journal-Times, T-Wall came to them with two developments, and the city wouldn't even talk to them. The article mentioned things like didn't want to take the first offer, didn't include affordable housing, sarcasm. Sound familiar, City of Wausau? We are, I've heard time and time again, we're partners. But us as a city council, we are the city. We are the elected representatives of this city. And as partners, all up to this date, people ask us questions that we can't answer because all we're being tossed is breadcrumbs. We're not being totally involved in this from the start. There has been no transparency. And I've heard reports of Wall lambasting our city staff, our city attorney, and our city mayor. And I listened to what you had to say, everybody, and I'm all for this. I want to move forward, but I don't want to see this end up to be another Franz. Like Will Harris said, I want to see it, but I want to see it done right. And I don't know that T-Wall is the right person to do this. And therefore, my other question would be can you provide us with a list of other developers that were contacted for this project? Or are we, again, taking the first thing that comes along? Thank you.
Mayor, you're up.
I thought Lisa was next. So I guess I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the process because those are some complaints I had. And thanks for noticing that I've been lambasted, but it's been from everyone, not just one person here, so I can take it. And I would say this, this is a project where you are being involved where you should be involved. This process is going the way it should. They've submitted their TIF application. That's where we come in and we say, all right, we will enter into this agreement with you. We get to decide the parameters of this development agreement. We get to decide, I didn't like the agreement we had with WAS, so I sat down with them and I said, hey, this is what I need. And they were receptive. And as you recall, we voted on that and we saved city taxpayers $4.5 million in dollars that we would have had to pay otherwise. So I think we need to think about what are those things that we need out of an agreement to get what we want done. So that can come in all kinds of different forms. I wrote down a list of things that I might consider putting into a development agreement. It's probably not the wisest thing for me to sit here listing off all of our competitive bargaining chips, but I would tell you that I think we have some opportunity to be very competitive and get to the right place where we can agree. And also, if we don't like something, we say something. We sit down and we say, this isn't working for me. Tell you what, that's what I did when I didn't like the way people were talking about me. That's what we do. So I'm here to kind of help us get to where we want to go with our development. I agree with everybody here. We can't have 8 blocks of concrete right there. We need to think about what we want moving forward. And, you know, we are in a position where we have gone into this with WAS. We've given them, you know, our $1 million to help buy that property. We have demoed it. And now that they have a proposal for us, we're starting to discuss it. So I think that there's a lot of people who want this to be litigated in the papers and everything like that, but we're doing exactly what we should be doing, having this discussion here. It should go to committees. We'll have some discussions about what we want in that development agreement. And that's where you have power. You get to say what's in there. You get to say what you care about. You get to say what you need to see and the kind of behavior that you expect from developers and partners. So I guess I would ask you to think about, what is it that you want? This is our opportunity.
Alder Rasmussen?
Thank you. Thank you for that, Mayor. I'm actually glad that I'm following her comments because she's spot on. There's a place for us in the process, and the place for us in the process is when action is needed and decisions need to get made along the way. And so, separate from that, it is the job of our professional staff to, you know, we've adopted the conceptual plan for this, and we've asked them to go forward now and begin to lay the groundwork for what will move a project like that forward. And that then really does give them the authority to go back and forth and negotiate with developers. And they do have a sense of what is completely unacceptable to us in terms of money and what we might be willing to talk about. And so their job at this early stage really is to take those preliminary documents and those concepts and figure out if it's something that, you know, they're ready to bring us to negotiate about in closed session, or if it's so far off the mark that they'll be laughed out of the room. We don't know that. So they have to get us to a point and get these numbers to a point where they're ready for us to talk about, and that they're at least a realistic skeleton of an agreement, because that's what we can take in closed session, and we all can talk about what we want to see or not, and what, you know, means more to us. And, you know, when it's time for that action, we'll see that in, first in terms of the agreement in economic development, and then when it gets to the money part, we'll do it in finance, and then it all comes to the council. So, you know, I've said many times, even alders who are not on those committees show up and offer feedback. We want to know ahead of time so that when we get to the council floor, we have a product that we believe we can agree on, and not something that we believe we have the right deal and then turn out that it's a bloodbath on the council floor. And so if that means that we have to word our agenda such that a quorum of a dozen different things might be present, then we're going to do that, because we want to be able to welcome our peers into the room with us in these committee meetings, in our closed sessions, so that we're getting that well-rounded segment of opinions. So, you know, I think that we are involved at the right point. The one thing this project has going for it is that the environmental testing, the soil borings, the sampling, the closures, that's done. That was what the fight was about down on the riverfront. It wasn't about how great the project would be. It was about the timeline for the darn testing. They've done that part. So one hurdle cleared, thankfully. So, you know, I think that we're on the right trajectory here, but I love what the mayor said about, you know, we cannot have all that concrete staring back at us year after year after year and not move forward. We just, economically, we can't afford that. And so, you know, I think that there's a time for us to be involved, and at each stage where it's appropriate for us to bless that next step with our votes, that we then come together in the right committee setting and do that. So thank you for that.
Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some comments, and then I'd like to just ask some brief questions. to WAS. But first, as a prelude, because Alder Rasmussen just mentioned it about soil and environmental, I'm a little bit confused because, well, I did see that one of the DNR's ERP sites had been closed in their BERTS database. There is another open ERP site. I believe it's a former parking lot area on the south side that, at least on the DNR's public-facing website, indicated soil contamination, I believe, with PAHs and TCE. And the last step that was put onto the database site was to install or use some monitoring wells for groundwater in order to test concentrations in that area. Sometimes there's a leg on the DNR site, so perhaps all of that has been completed and looks just great. But if not, my understanding is that the environmental side of this is in fact still in progress. So I was a little confused to hear that. I'd like to start off by saying, though, I'm very heartened to see all the citizens and local businesses come and provide comment. I believe citizen participation and public input is really one of the most necessary components of legitimate citizen-driven government. That being said, there were some statements made tonight by some organizations, I believe, representing businesses, made about Wausau's history that I'm not sure are entirely accurate. And so let's look at the mall history for a minute. Let's go back to the late 70s, early 80s, and then also look at perhaps February 2016 with the CBL mall deal. Actually, let's start there. So in February of 2016, there was significant overlap between the organizations that spoke with us this evening and those who came to support the CBL mall deal in 2016 for several $1 million. Now, mind you, that was before CBL filed some bankruptcy-related filings or before it was investigated by the FBI. But the point is that there was the same zeal and insistence and assertion of time sensitivity in February of 2016 with the CBL mall deal than we heard from some of those organizations tonight. And the fact of the matter is, and as a matter of fact, not opinion, that would have been very poor judgment to proceed with CBL in that manner. So I think it would be unfair to label apprehensions from our citizenry and the public as just noise or negativity or ignorance or what have you. They are our citizenry, and apparently they have a better institutional memory than some of us do in this room. We need to pay them some respect. And then on that note, there were problems in the late 70s and early 80s with transparency and undue influence in the process during that time. In fact, from 1967 onward in Wausau, right around the time Central Wausau Progress came into play, we saw opaque, undue influence in downtown development. Now, we saw that in 2016 as well with Central Wausau Progress giving input on the CBL mall deal. Now we call it Greater Wausau something or other, but just insert chamber subsidiary or appendage into the name, and we're pretty much dealing with the same playbook and different names. So once again, I think it would be unfair to label the apprehensions our citizenry has about some of this as simply negativity and noise. Also, I'd like to state that I'm very supportive of development and private sector activities and really don't believe that it is the government's role to intervene in such activities when they are planned and funded by private money. But inviting public money invites government involvement, and the primary objective of using public money should be the public good. In this case, in the census block group area, 77% of the residents who live in this area are low-income residents. Yet we're talking about channeling millions of public money now and millions more in the future for government subsidized decadence, when, as our packet states, we're showing between 25% in the packet cost burdened residents with rent. Others put it at about 50%. But yes, there should be a mix, as I've heard from some local business owners, a mix of housing, but we must start with the right priorities. And when it comes to public funds, those priorities are the urgent ones. So let's make sure people have a roof over their head before the city's paying for a pool and a jacuzzi that our citizenry cannot even access. If possible, I do have some limited questions for Waz. Hi, Mr. Godorzi. Thank you for answering these questions. It's about the opportunity zone nomenclature and what I understand to be the associated kind of tax benefit and scheme with opportunity zones. And I'm a layperson, and it seems fairly complex, but my understanding is that there's a qualified opportunity fund, and then when parties partake in this, they receive preferential tax treatment, also the possibility for deferred capital gains and so forth. It appeared in the packet that the nonprofit profit dynamics of some of the relationships may have suggested this could be at play. So my questions are, is the opportunity zone, I'll just call it again, it sounds redundant, opportunity, being leveraged here, or was that something that was kind of discarded along the way? And then the last question would be, who is benefiting from this preferential tax treatment and how much?
Well, the name Wausau Opportunity Zone is only a name. The city of Wausau has a variety of areas that fall within the Opportunity Zone, which was created by the state of Wisconsin through the federal government. There is no indication that anybody has been involved in the community in terms of a Wausau, in terms of an Opportunity Zone. I think some of the things you are saying regarding the legislation probably is true, but there's no effort that I see from developers to really get involved with that. And this won't be a project that will involve that. I don't see any of the mall project really falling in a category where somebody would want to take advantage of that legislation.
Thank you for that answer. If it's not inconvenient, could Mr. Mella please confirm that for me as well, if you think that would be appropriate? Mr. Mella, at one of the recent meetings, you had mentioned you were representing some participants with WAS in some way, and just because of the nature of the question and the technicality, I was wondering if you knew at all if anyone would be receiving preferential tax treatment or deferred capital gains from these activities.
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alder Watson?
Madam Chair, can I also
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about the environmental? Just so you know, the mall site has closure from the Wisconsin DNR. That's the mall site. Recently, we put together a scenario in which Block 1 would become part of the development. Land in Block 1 that we are now testing is owned by the city. So we're going through the same process that we did when we did the mall site. What Tom is saying is true. You do testing, you drill holes, And in the mall site, we were also asked to do water samples. REI is following the same procedures. All of the literature and the correspondence on that is with the city clerk. And I would suspect that we're going to find the same scenario in that area as we did in the mall, which is essentially some historic fill, that if we're going to remove it, we take it to a landfill. If we aren't going to remove it, it can stay where it is. That would be my projection.
Thank you, Mr. Gadorzian. Before you sit down, may I ask a follow-up question based on your follow-up? So, and perhaps it would be better for REI, but with these groundwater tests that were triggered by the presence of contaminants in the soil, have those results come back yet clean?
I don't know where we are in that process. And I think if you check the literature, that is in the city clerk's hand, that would be the update as to where that is. That process with water samples takes a long period of time. So I would suspect that those samples are not, if they have even taken them already, that it'll be weeks before we see what the result is.
Thank you.
Alder Watson?
I just, thanks for the minute. I just wanted to address Alder Killian's point about the low-income housing that's in the need for low-income housing in the area, and just say Landmark is under renovation, 90-plus units of affordable housing, and we also in that same area have the Federal Lofts, Trolley Quarter Flats, and Atrium Lofts. I don't think it's any coincidence that we have low-income residents in this area when we build affordable housing for them. That is the, it's kind of when we build it, that's who occupies it. I would also note that that downtown Wausau is actually really an interesting case study compared to most other downtowns, actually every other downtown I can think of in the state and mostly the country, which is that we are kind of an opposite donut. We have our qualified census tracts are located in the heart of our downtown and not outside of the downtown. What we're trying to do is basically balance this a little bit more. We have a lot of affordable housing units in the downtown. Our upper units above the downtown storefronts are also very affordable. They're not technically tax credit projects, but having lived in one, I know how affordable it is. So I would say that adding higher-end housing is a need to balance to just create a more holistic ecosystem. And as someone who's worked in this area for about a decade, I think that this is I would basically say that that's a pretty accurate assessment also with our housing study that's coming out.
Thank you. May I briefly address that since it was addressed to me?
Alder Watson, it's up to you.
Can I just say I don't talk much, so, all right. So I think, like, with the continual tax property, I think Tyler's hit on the reverse TID perfectly. So Mary Ann, could you quote him in our next TID presentation if it's okay? But I mean, the T-Wall is taking the vast amount of risk up front, right? And then they're going to get a share of whatever proceeds come from that development over time, and that's something that our staff needs to negotiate, and we can't meddle with it yet. They need the advantage of that negotiation. I think the market rate apartments that they're going to be providing need that private funding, and I think the affordable housing ones can be funded through ARPA. And I'm hoping that after finance rates and scores these last two projects from Tammy, I'm hoping they'll forward them on to council and we'll be like, yes, only $1.1 million and we'll have all these units of affordable housing. So I'm really hoping you guys will be open to that. And then just a basic economic concept, and I think a lot of the citizens have touched on this, like spending begets spending, right? There's a multiplier effect. If you invest in an area, that also, pays local people. Those local people spend money locally, and it just keeps cycling around, right? One question, though, I did have for the application is T-Wall mentioned that you weren't going to sign a community workforce agreement with the local building trades council, and then you didn't really anticipate hiring subcontractors within a 100-mile radius. And I guess that sort of concerned me about the spending begets spending thing, because if you're not hiring local, so I didn't know if there was any explanation about that.
Yes, so thank you for asking that question. So on the TIF application, I believe it was a point blank yes or no. I couldn't give an explanation. But we will certainly use best efforts. We will competitively bid the project out, and most likely the majority of our subs are going to be local within 100 miles. But we'll competitively bid that project out. It'll be all general contractors from Wisconsin, from the area. We'll give everybody a fair shot, and depending on their capacity, on their experience or track record, and what that pricing comes in at, that's who we'll go with. But along the way, we have say in the subcontractors. So again, we'll use best efforts, but I cannot guarantee that we're going to use all local exclusively.
I mean, is that a preference that you can consider in the back of your mind in negotiations, or at least registering with union? I'm a pretty pro-union person, and I think it'd be nice to have that opportunity for our union contractors. So.
Yeah, and when we competitively bid, we could certainly look into that option. Development, as you know, right now is very price sensitive, and with interest rates and everything, so that's largely factored into this. But we will certainly look into that when bidding it out to contractors. Thank you.
Alder Killian, do you still want to?
Yes, I mean, simply because it was directed toward me and my district. In terms of poverty in District 3, it is not accurate to say it is just because the city put people there. And when low-income people and people of color were monetized in the 2012 EPA application by the city, it predated some of those things. So there has been disproportionate poverty in some areas of District 3 for quite some time. And on that note, I just find it odd that with what we're hearing tonight about the lack of affordable units, that the city did not have the foresight to not tear down tens of homes in working class neighborhoods on Thomas Street and Sherman, and to do that while violating federal law. But that was under Mayor Tipple's tenure. Thank you.
Okay. I have a question. We talked a little bit about TIF. My question is, the mall site is not in a TIF right now or a TID district. When we move those boundaries, when we talk about a reverse TID, what we do is that freezes whatever tax base is there now. So when we freeze that tax base, we know the mall is probably the lowest it's ever been. It's just the land. What is going to happen? I mean, the levy will not see those tax dollars for many, many years. Is that correct? Yeah, please. I don't care.
Yes, that is correct. But, the point of a TID is you wouldn't have that new value if you didn't make those investments. And so, I think that's why TID is a good and useful tool, and the city has used it in a manner where we have supported a lot of public infrastructure in our tax increment districts. We have paid for many street improvement projects. First Avenue, Thomas Street. We have done a lot of good infrastructure projects with our tax increment districts. Again, leveraging the full tax rate versus just the city tax rate, and supporting the businesses, and obviously transportation and our ability to get from point A to B is very important to the economics of the city.
As a follow-up, this came from one of my residents because the mayor brought up that she had renegotiated, and we had voted on a new development agreement, and we know that was part of us taking, or us, the city, the taxpayers demoing the mall project that was signed, that they would have a tax base of $7 million coming up in the next couple of years. That would be wiped out with a TID, correct? I mean, the tax base wouldn't be the 7 million, or would it?
So I think your question is, I mean, obviously, if there's new development, it's going to be above the 7 million. So I guess that's the minimum number.
Right, but it's not going to go to the levy, it would be part of the increment.
So I guess their comment was to guarantee that there would be a specific value. So once that minimum value is met, it really has nothing to do with who shares in that value. Obviously, if we create a TID district, state law says that the base value is established at the time of creation, whether it be a new district or if we amend the district to add those parcels in. And that is really a process that's dictated by state law and by the Department of Revenue. So that base value occurs, and then any new growth there forward is enjoyed by the district to pay district costs, and then when those costs have been paid in full, then you can close the district, and then the school and the county and the technical college and the city budgets enjoy those funds. But again, the theory behind that is that the value would not go up without a tax increment district.
Sorry. Alder Denny.
Thank you. And I would also like to thank all the residents who did come and speak tonight. Very, very passionate, some good points. And I think, I didn't see anyone, or I didn't hear anyone against this. So I don't know who's against it. It seems like a good project. And I also thank Tom. You reminded me of the 2016 meeting. I was here for that. I spoke against it. I think it was 4.1 million, which fortunately they turned it over to the bank before we had to pay that money. And I think that was a bad deal. This is nowhere near that. So I mean, I think it's a good point, though, that we need to do our due diligence. And I think a lot of people have mentioned it, and I hope that we will have the chance to do that. But for the TID, the taxes would be immediately realized at the bottom line of the city. So I would argue, and I maybe have to have a beer with Tyler to discuss the nuances of TID, but it is not free money. So it does have a cost, and the cost is opportunity. So we don't see the money immediately, we see it 27 years down the road. So we do have to consider that. And obviously, if somebody comes and asks for $1 million, we don't say, we like your project, we'd like to give you $2 million, because we know that's our money, we're spending it. We don't do that. So let's get to that. To me, it's a great project. I want to see it go, is how much city involvement is there, which we don't know yet. So I don't know what we're too wrapped up about right now. I do have one question, though, on the some of the math here offered. It says that the cost per unit went from 105 to estimated exceeding 200,000 per unit. So by 154 units, that's $14 million swing. I hope that's not a indicator of what you're looking to come back to the city for. But is that a real number on the total project? 14 million on a $36 million project? I don't know who could answer that question.
Yeah, to answer your question about the 105,000 per unit to 200,000, that's based on some of our past projects. We have two exact buildings. One was, I want to say 2016, and then the other went to 2018. And don't quote me on these numbers, but it was like 95,000 per unit, went up to 110, 115,000 per unit, and now we're seeing pricing come in above 200,000. So we're using past projects, similar projects, to figure out where our pricing is at. And our most current bids for another project came in well above 200,000. So that's what we're seeing today.
Anybody else, or are we all done with our discussion? I told them at the beginning, I guess if anybody has any discussion on the TIF application, I said at the beginning that we were going to intermingle it and not separate it, but does anybody have any specific questions on that? Go ahead, Mayor.
I don't have a question. I just want to let you know that one of the things that we wanted to do was offer an analysis on this ask for you guys. And we're still waiting on some of the details. It's a little bit interesting to kind of work through a third party to kind of get this done. But you will have that so that you can ask questions about what this looks like, what the investment means, how it compares to other investments. So I just want to let you know that that's on its way. And you'll see that at whichever meeting, probably finance makes the most sense. But we can talk about it all day, every day if you want. I'm willing to do that.
Okay, so our final thing is to discuss and come to a consensus of next steps and what committee. I think Alder Rasmussen had stated that, ED, finance, those are the two normal ones. What is your pleasure, committee? Gary? Lisa. Oh, I'm sorry.
So where are we? I mean, we have we don't really know it today what we have in front of us. So when is this going to happen? And is this going to be finance or another one of these where we can sit around the table and shoot over? I'm for the project, but there are some questions raised as to exactly what the city is going to be involved with this, and I have questions about that, but I guess those questions won't be answered until we see where we are. So how do we go forth? Maybe that's the mayor.
I think we're looking for a timeline, and I think we have one.
Yeah, so we have a few different alternative timelines. We're in the midst of negotiations right now, and the TIF analysis, so we need some information back before we can give you solid timelines. But our plans involve going to finance and ED. In what order, I don't know exactly makes sense right now. So Nick and I have been talking about, I think we have 3 different timelines laid out at the moment, kind of depending on when a draft agreement comes back that's acceptable to the city to move forward and present to these committees. So we had been talking about things as soon as 8:10 finance to as late as 9:6 ED, starting with committee approvals or committee discussions of those, of that agreement and the TIF participation ask. So it is flexible right now. We don't have a solid timeline because we just don't have the agreement ready to go. And we're not going to bring something that city staff doesn't feel would pass any of these bodies. So it is a little bit up in the air, but ED, Finance, and Council are all on our timeline. And then we are also, the GDP also needs to be approved through Council as well. So we were hoping to bring the GDP along with the development agreement to a Council meeting, kind of, again, depending on how the timing of all of that plays out.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you. I guess I would just request that we follow normal order. I mean, normally, right, and I don't think we need to vote on that because that's our normal process.
Right.
So, I mean, when the development agreement is ready to chew over, like Gary said, we do that around the table in closed session so that we have a bargaining position that we protect as well. And the entire council is certainly welcome to partake in that, even though there's 5 members voting. Same thing with finance. When the money part is ready, we're going to do that the same way. And so then, once we have all come to some kind of agreement, then we're going to vote on them in open session in those 2 committees, which are public meetings, and then on to council. So, if we expect that that's happening in the fall, I don't think we need a special process. I think we just need to stay on track with our normal process. And so I don't see that we need to vote on this tonight if we're going to use our normal processes.
No, I agree. Usually it goes to ED first. I think that's where it needs to go. Gary, you would rather, instead of the ED finance, are you suggesting a cow? Or are you okay with our normal process?
I'm okay with whatever the normal processes would be, but did I hear this right, that the agreement that you have, the understanding that you have in front of you today would not pass this body this evening?
We just responded to it. So we have not, we're waiting on a response. There is no agreement that would or would not pass right now. It's completely in negotiation.
I thought you said that
we will bring it when it has, when we think it has a chance. So like that's we'll bring it when we feel like it's a good, when we feel solid about it, but right now it's just it's in negotiation.
So then how are you going, what are the signals that the city council is going to give you that you're feeling good about some kind of an agreement?
Well, so we've been, to negotiate the agreement, we've been meeting with department head staff who would be basically, the impact of the agreement would hit those departments like finance and DPW and development. And when we get to the point of, back and forth with T-Wall of we don't have changes, neither party is looking for changes to the agreement in substantive form, then that's when we would bring it to to ED and then finance and then council. And if there's, if it doesn't pass ED, if there are negotiation points that we need to go back and talk about, we will do that at that point. But it is left to city staff to negotiate the agreement to the point where we feel it's solid enough to bring to a governing body.
I have questions about that, but I guess I don't.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess when we do talk about this more in the future, I'd also be interested on hearing kind of what the rules and precedents are in terms of negotiation with parties when it hasn't been initiated by committee or council, explicitly. So I think not just in this case, but in general, it would be illuminating to learn exactly what the expectations are in terms of staff commencing on negotiations when there hasn't been an explicit directive from a committee or the council, and perhaps that opinion would come from the city attorney's office. Thank you.
Mayor?
Sorry, I keep pushing my button and it keeps canceling me out. No, it's fine. I get it. It's kind of fun to be here and talking in this way. So thank you. I want to point out, because today we were talking, we talk about this every day, and, we have 6 people on this body who've never been through this process before. You have me, who I've not seen through a process like this before. You have a new development director. We have a new business development part. We have a lot of new folk. So I do want to say that if you're noticing maybe things that seem different or we haven't done it before, we're trying some new things and figuring out ways to bring something to you that seems palatable. And I'm using myself as that temperature taker. I don't know if you remember in 2020, but we had a developer who wanted to exercise an option in our downtown, and they basically said, we won't do anything unless you give us 25% of our development costs. And I said, well, that ain't happening. So we didn't even bring it to you. They said they would accept nothing less than that. So I guess you can expect us to bring what we feel is a good deal. What we feel, I talk to most of you regularly, and I do a lot of listening to a lot of you too. So I do hear what you're saying. If there's a way, we've kind of gone back and forth as to, do you want a development agreement? Do you want it kind of sewn up a little bit? Do you want do you want a sheet of like what you expect? We've done it both ways here at the city. It's not all preferable. So again, this is your work too. So if there's a way for the committee to weigh in on what you would expect, and I would also say this isn't a surprising project. This started before I got here. So a lot of these projects you were talking about in the past, my dad voted on. So I had a little bit of time to think about this. But this is something that started before I got here, and who knows, it might finish after I leave. So it's something we need to work out together as a functional working body.
Well, Liz, I guess it's up to you. I mean, if you didn't get an answer back, I don't see a reason to worry about scheduling right now. But we've kind of come to the consensus, I think, that, we all can join into ED. I think that's the next place you go when you are comfortable, as you said. I don't see, if there's a need and if I get, other alders that really, we have a new way of getting a cow. If 2 members say they want a cow, we vote on it. So if there, we may have another one of these as well. This is a big project. It has a lot of community involvement beyond what our wonderful audience was here today. We hear a lot of it out in the community. I know I do as an alder, and I'm sure other alders do as well. So it has a lot of perked ears in our community. So the more, I will just add that the more transparency, the more information, the better. I've always believed that. I've always said that. The way to make sure that any development is successful is to get community backing, and all of the community backing. You will then have a successful, project. So I guess we'll kind of leave it to you. You go through your normal processes with your, ED chair. And if anybody on this body feels that they need more information or anything, come to me, go to the mayor, we'll discuss, and we can schedule another cow. I want everyone to feel they have every bit of information or the ability to ask questions, have all their questions answered, and are able to talk to their residents in an educated way about this, because that's part of our mission too as alders, is to educate our residents of what this means now and for 20 years from now. So, and I thank everybody for coming.
If I may, I would also echo the offer of transparency and accessibility. All of my information, I think all of you have it, is on the bottom of my email signature, and it's also available online. So please, I am happy to talk about anything and everything that I can with this project. It is my life. So
thank you. So if we could have a motion to adjourn, motion by Killian, second, and we are adjourned. Have a nice evening. Thank you so much.